and make a fine meal. I will eat a piece of the roof, Gretel, and you can have some of the window that will taste sweet." So Hansel reached up and broke off a bit of the roof, just to see how it tasted, and Gretel stood by the window and gnawed at it. Then they heard a thin voice call out from inside, "Nibble, nibble, like a mouse. Who is nibbling at my house?" And the children answered, "Never mind, it is the wind." And they went on eating, never disturbing themselves. Hansel, who found that the arcouth tasted very nice, took down a great piece of it, and Gretel pulled out a large round window pane and sat her down and began upon it. Then the door opened, and an aged woman came out, leaning upon a crutch. Hansel and Gretel felt very frightened, and let fall what they had in their hands. The old woman, however, nodded her head, and said, "My dear children, how come? You hear? You must come indoors and stay with me. You will be no trouble." So she took them each by the hand, and led them into her little house. And there they found a good meal laid out of milk and pancakes with sugar, apples and nuts. After that she showed them to little white beds, and Hansel and Gretel laid themselves down on them, and thought they were in heaven. The old woman, although her behavior was so kind, was a wicked witch who lay in wait for children, and had built a little house on purpose to entice them when they were once inside. She used to kill them, cook them, and eat them, and then it was at feast day with her. The witch's eyes were red, and she could not see very far, but she had a keen scent, like the beasts, and knew very well when human creatures were near. When she knew that Hansel and Gretel were coming, she gave a spiteful laugh, and said triumphantly, "I have them, and they shall not escape me." Early in the morning, before the children were awake, she got up to look at them, and as they lay, sleeping so peacefully with round, rosy cheeks, she said to herself, "What a fine feast I shall have." Then she grasped Hansel with her withered hand, and led him into a little stable, and shut him up behind a grating, and call and scream as he might, it was no good. Then she went back to Gretel and shook her, crying, "Get up, lazy bones. Fetch water and cook something nice. For your brother, he is outside in the stable, and must be fattened up, and when he is fat enough I will eat him." Gretel began to weep bitterly, but it was of no use. She had to do what the wicked witch bade her, and so the best kind of victuals was cooked for poor Hansel, while Gretel got nothing but crab shells. Each morning the old woman visited the little stable and cried, "Hansel, stretch out your finger, that I may tell if you will soon be fat enough." Hansel, however, used to hold out a little bone, and the old woman, who had weak eyes, could not see what it was, and supposing it to be Hansel's finger, wondered very much that it was not getting fatter. Early next morning Gretel had to get up, make the fire, and fill the kettle. "First we will do the baking," said the old woman. "I knave heated the oven already, and kneaded the dough." She pushed poor Gretel towards the oven, out of which the flames were already shining. "Creep in," said the witch, "and see if it is properly hot, so that the bread may be baked." And Gretel once in, she meant to shut the door upon her and let her be baked, and then she would have eaten her. But Gretel perceived her intention, and said, "I don't know how to do it. How shall I get in?" "Stupid goose," said the old woman, "the opening is big enough. Do you see? I could get in myself." And she stooped down and put her head in the oven's mouth. Then Gretel gave her a push, so that she went in farther, and she shut the iron door upon her, and put up the bar. Oh, how frightfully she howled! But Gretel ran away, and left the wicked witch to burn miserably. Gretel went straight to Hansel, opened the stable door, and cried, "Hansel, we are free! The old witch is dead." Then out flew Hansel like a bird from its cage as soon as the door is opened. How rejoiced they both were, how they fell each on the other's neck and danced about and kissed each other, and as they had nothing more to fear, they went over all the old witch's house, and in every corner there stood chests of pearls and precious stones. "This is something better than flint stones," said Hansel as he filled his pockets, and Gretel, thinking she also would like to carry something home with her, filled her apron full. "Aye, now, away we go," said Hansel. "If we only can get out of the witch's wood." When they had journeyed a few hours, they came to a great piece of water. "We can never get across this," said Hansel. "I see no stepping stones and no bridge." "And there is no boat either," said Gretel. "But here comes a white duck. If I ask her, she will help us over." So she cried, "Duck, duck, here we stand. Hansel and Gretel, on the land, stepping stones and bridge we lack. Carry us over on your nice white back." And the duck came accordingly, and Hansel got upon her and told his sister to come too. "No," answered Gretel, "that would be too hard upon the duck. We can go separately, one after the other." And that was how it was managed. And after that, they went on happily until they came to the wood, and the way grew more and more familiar, till at last they saw in the distance their father's house. Then they ran till they came up to it, rushed in at the door, and fell on their father's neck. The man had not had a quiet house since he left his children in the wood. But the wife was dead, and when Gretel opened her apron, the pearls and precious stones were scattered all over the room, and Hansel took one handful after another out of his pocket. Then was all care at an end, and they lived in great joy together. My tale is done. There runs a mouse, whosoever catches it may make him